YouTube, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Rebecca and I am 26 years old. I live in Yorkshire and I am a mum to a 3-month-old baby. So today I finally want to get round to doing my labour and delivery story. It's not going to be a short one because it wasn't straightforward, just like my pregnancy. There is going to be a lot of TMI bits in this video as it's a labour and delivery video, so if you don't want to hear about that, then switch off. So yeah, if you would like to hear about how I gave birth to my son, who's now 3 months old, keep on watching. My due date was the 29th of July, and I'm going to start from the 24th of July, so I would have been 39 weeks plus 2 days. So I went out for a carvery with my boyfriend's mum and my mum. Everything was perfectly normal that day, no signs or anything. So yeah, I got home from having a carvery with my family and went to the toilet and wiped. My mucus plug had come away, the whole lot of it. It weren't just a little bit, it was a lot. So yeah, my mucus plug come away. I didn't really know what to do. Had a bath, didn't feel any different, didn't get any contractions, no pains, no nothing. I phoned triage that night just to check that I didn't need to do anything. They just said that it's perfectly normal. They asked me if there was any blood on it, which there wasn't. It was just very mucousy. They said that it's perfectly normal, especially at this stage in your pregnancy. It could be my body getting ready for labour. I could go into labour like that day or the next day, or it could also be another week or two. Yeah, so yeah, they just said I didn't need to really do anything, so I just carried on. I had my bath. I then went to bed as normal that night. So the next day I woke up, and as I was laid in bed, as I moved, I felt a little bit of water come away, but not a lot. It was just like a trickle, but it was sort of felt like I'd weed myself and I couldn't control it. That's how it felt, like a little bit. When I actually sat up in bed, I took off my knickers to have a look, and they was fairly damp. I was thinking, could it be my waters or have I just weed myself? At that stage in pregnancy, it was not uncommon for me to have weed myself. Not full on, but you know, just a little bit. I changed my knickers and I put some clean ones on, and I don't sleep with my pyjama bottoms on anyway, so they weren't damp, so I just put them on. Went downstairs as usual. 2 or 3 hours later that day, I felt like I was a little bit wet again, and obviously as I couldn't see, I had a big belly. I asked my boyfriend to look at my pyjamas and he said there's a wet patch on between your legs. So I took them off, had a look, and there was a fairly big wet patch between my legs. So I once again I took them off because at this point as well, the weather was absolutely boiling hot. If you live in the UK, you'll remember the 40-degree heat wave. I don't think it was then, but it was still about 35 degrees at this point. So I just took off my pyjamas bottoms and I was walking around in my knickers, clean knickers that I'd changed again. At this point I did start to think maybe my waters have gone, but I'm not sure. I didn't phone up the triage this time because I thought my waters had gone previously a couple of weeks ago, and it turned out it wasn't. So I didn't want to be ringing them up for me to have to go in and them say, yeah, it's not your waters, go back home. So I had a scan the next day anyway, a Grove scan, so I just thought I would leave it until then. So just changed my knickers again, had a shower later that night. I then was bouncing on my ball, naked, but well, not completely naked. I had a top on, but from the waist down I was naked. I was bouncing on my ball and I had a piece of kitchen towel there just to like see if there was any water coming away and to catch it. Obviously I was bouncing on my ball on this kitchen towel or kitchen paper, watching Love Island, and yeah, the kitchen paper was wet. I can insert a picture of that actually because I do have one. So the kitchen paper was wet. So at this point I was almost sure that it was my waters, because obviously I don't really weigh myself that much, and I wasn't aware of it coming away. It just, sometimes I could feel it and then other times I couldn't. So yeah, I was pretty sure at this point it was my waters. So anyway, just carried on again as usual. Went to bed that night, nothing unusual happened, had no pains, had nothing. So the next day I got up and I got ready for my growth scan. I had a shower, put on some clean knickers again and some leggings, and I thought to myself, guarantee when I get there these leggings and knickers are going to be wet. So my mum took me, because my boyfriend had come to all my appointments with me and he didn't really want to have any more time out of work, and it was my mum's day off. So my mum came with me to this appointment. She knew I thought my waters had broke, and so I got there. I had my scan straight away pretty much, and they said everything looks completely normal. I then waited in the waiting room to see the midwife. I saw the midwife. They did all the normal checks, like did your urine sample, check your blood pressure, asked you all the usual questions. And I said, at that point, I said, I think my waters may have gone, but I'm not 100% sure. I told them what had been happening, and she said, she looked at my scan report and she said, from this report it says liquor volume normal or something, and she said normally if your waters have broke that would say decreased or whatever. She said we'll get someone to check, or we'll check for you anyway to check that your waters are still like there, they haven't broke. So I then had to go back into the waiting room. I was waiting to see the doctor anyway, because you have to see like the consultant or the doctor when you're having growth scans. Went to see this doctor. It was a woman doctor, but I think she was a trainee doctor, like in her second year or something, and she said she could check to see if my waters have gone. So she said, I just need to make sure I've got all the things. And she did say to me, if it is your waters that have gone, you're going to need to stay in to be induced, as it had been more than 24 hours since it would have been, because when I woke up, my waters had already broke at that point, even though I woke up fairly late in the day, because I weren't sleeping at night. So I think I got out of bed at about 11. My appointment was at 2 p.m. the next day, so it had been 24 hours. And the midwife did say to me when I said I think my waters have broke, she was like, oh, you should have came, you should have rang, and we would have told you to come in and we would have checked. Then anyway, the doctor checked for me. I laid on the bed, put one of them speculum things in, which I hate. I've always hated it. When I had my smear test, I hated it. But yeah, she put one of them speculum things in, and it wasn't nice, it wasn't comfortable at all. I didn't like it, but she did say your cervix is off to one side, so that's why it's a bit more difficult for me. She took a swab. I think she took a few swabs, and she did say to me, I can see there's quite a bit of wateriness there, but she said that could be anything, that might not be waters. So then after the swab had been taken, she told me to get up and get dressed. She put the swab in a little solution thing on her desk, and she said it'll literally come up like a pregnancy test. If it's positive for waters, it will have 2 lines on it. So it was sat there on the desk, I'm there getting dressed, I sat down, and she then looked at the test and showed me and said, yep, look, it's positive, so now you're going to have to stay in and be induced. So I was like, right, okay, so like, can I go home and come back? I haven't brought any in my bags. Can I not go home and have my tea? Can I go home and get my bags? And she was like, nope, you've got to stay in now, that's it, you'll have to get someone to bring your bags. And I was like, oh my god, because I literally went in for my growth scan and I ended up staying in to be induced and have my baby, and I was just in utter shock. I phoned my boyfriend and told him I was staying in now, and he was obviously very shocked, but he knew something was going to come from it. We was pretty sure my waters had broke. So he was still working, he was working from home at this point, so I just told him there was no rush, nothing's going to happen just yet, so just stay at work and then come after you finish work. So he did. I think he stayed working until about 5ish. He then did some tidying, fed the dog, got a shower. Yeah, his mum brought him with all my bags. I think we had the baby's bag, my bag, a snack bag, my pregnancy pillow, the car seat, pretty much bought the whole house. I couldn't actually believe that I wasn't going home without my baby. Like, I remember I kept saying the whole rest of that day, I didn't expect this today, I did not expect this today, and everybody was laughing at me. My mum was laughing at me, my boyfriend was laughing at me. Yeah, that's all I kept saying all day. So anyway, she phoned the labour ward to see if they had room, because if they didn't have room, I'm assuming they would have sent me up to triage or something, just to wait until they'd got a spare room. But apparently they was fairly quiet, and they told her to send me straight round, which wasn't what I wanted. I wanted to go home. So yeah, she was on the phone to the labour ward, and she said, do you want me to send her straight round then? Do you want me to cannulate her here? And they obviously said yeah, and me and my mum just looked at each other like, oh my god. So I'm going straight round to the labour ward, no messing. So she took some bloods out of one hand, she put a cannula in the other hand. So I obviously had to be induced, because for people that don't know, if your waters have broke and you don't go into labour naturally yourself, then there's a high chance that you could get an infection, and obviously also could the baby. That's why I needed to be induced, because it had been more than 24 hours. So they sent me round to the labour ward. I got there and I was greeted by a lovely midwife and a student midwife who showed me into this room. I was obviously petrified, because they looked at me and said there's no need to be so scared. So I got in and they was talking to me about what was going to happen, how they would induce me. The trained midwife, not the student one, but the student one, she was actually qualifying in like 3 days I think, so she was pretty much a qualified midwife as well. But the other midwife, she was saying to me that we're going to induce you by the hormone drip, and I was not happy about this at all. I'd heard so many bad stories about being induced with the hormone drip. I really wanted to give my body a chance to like sort of do it like more naturally, even if I had to have like the gel or the pessary or something. But they really wanted me to go into labour as soon as possible, because they couldn't really leave me much longer, as my waters had been broke for a while. They was talking to me about pain relief, asking what sort of pain relief I wanted. I was sort of open-minded about pain relief. I did have a birth plan, but I wasn't like super set on that birth plan. So I really did want to have a sort of a natural birth, and only use gas and air and no epidural or anything. But from what I'd heard about the hormone drip, contractions and your labour is going to be 10 times more painful, hence why I didn't want it. So they did recommend the epidural, and I had no reservations about that. I was having the epidural no matter what. If I was having the hormone drip, I was having the epidural. I'd already decided that. This midwife wanted to put me on the hormone drip tonight, like that same day, but first I had to have a drip of antibiotics to make sure that I'd not got an infection, or just in case I had an infection already. Before my boyfriend came with his mum, the midwife had agreed, and the consultant had agreed and recommended that I don't get started off on the hormone drips straight away. So they agreed that I could have the pessary instead first. But unfortunately, if the pessary didn't work, I wouldn't be able to have it again and again. Like sometimes I think when you get induced with the pessary, they'll put one pessary in, give you 6 hours, put another pessary in, give you 6 hours, put another pessary in, and then obviously if them 3 don't work, then they'll need to do something else. But because they really wanted me to get the baby out fairly soon, they only was going to give me 1 pessary. So I was very nervous. I was extremely nervous. I didn't want to be examined again. I'd already been examined to see if my waters had been broke, and that was horrendous for me anyway. And I was so anxious. I suffer with anxiety anyway, so I was sweating and sweating and sweating. And I just said, before we do anything, can I please have a shower, because I've not had a shower today and I'm sweating so much because I'm so anxious. And they was absolutely fine with that. They said, yeah, of course, we'll get you some shower gel. They brought me a hospital gown that I could get changed into, which was lovely because my leggings were soaked. So I had a shower. I put the hospital gown on, and then I think they put the hormone drip, not the hormone drip, why do I keep saying that? They put the antibiotics drip on my hand, and they put the monitor on. So for those again who don't know, it's like two little, if you've ever seen anybody or had your baby's heartbeat listened to when you go to a scan, like the little Doppler, it's just like that, but it's like a circle thing, and they put two on your belly and then strap them with bands. So there's like two straps with two monitors on, and one's to monitor your contractions and one's to monitor the baby's heart rate. And baby's heart rate seemed okay at this point. And because they don't always do this, but because my waters had been broke for some time and they didn't know if I'd got an infection or not, they wanted to monitor me and the baby. So they'd already been doing my blood pressure, taking my temperature, etc. All of them were normal, so they weren't pointing to an infection. And then they also examined me and put the pessary in. She did say that I was about 0.5 centimetre dilated already, which to me sounded fairly good, because obviously my body's done something itself. And to be honest, when they did the pessary, they let me have gas and air, and I've never ever had gas and air in my life, so I had no idea what I was doing. I was actually like sucking on the thing and then like blowing like that, because I didn't know you could just go. I thought you had to like, and the midwife said to me, just blow back into the tube and shut your eyes because you'll feel sick. So once I started doing that, it felt amazing, to be honest. It was good. Like, it's weird because you can still feel it, but it's sort of like, I mean, you probably heard this before because it's well known, but it's very much like you're drunk, very, very drunk. Like, I mean, to the point where you can't stand up drunk, and after you've only had a few puffs. But apparently it only takes 30 seconds to get out your system, and yeah, I believe that, because even when I'd had quite a bit of it, I was just a bit like that for maybe 30 seconds to a minute, and then I'd sort of come round. So yeah, I was on the gas and air. I had a few puffs before they actually put the pessary in, because I apparently looked very anxious, which I was. And it weren't too bad, to be honest. I saw her like get the pessary between her fingers and put it in. It wasn't pleasant, but it wasn't absolutely terrible. But they just wanted to be on the safe side. So yes, I was hooked up to the hormone, not the hormone drip, the antibiotics, and on the monitor. Baby's heart rate seemed okay. I wasn't getting any contractions at this point. They took me off the monitor, they took the drip off me, and I was allowed to get up and start walking around and trying to get things moving, because that is the best way. If you have the pessary or anything like the balloon or the gel, apparently it's like the best way to get moving. Even if you're doing it naturally, if you're in labour, the best thing is to be constantly on the go. I learnt that in hypnobirthing, because I did do a course on that. I did the Positive Birth Company course. It was very good. It was good. But unfortunately, what I learned in that, you could sort of like use it when you was being induced with the hormone drip and the epidural, which I had, but it doesn't. I don't think it works as well, to be honest. I was able to move around after they took the hormone drip out, the antibiotic drip and the monitor off me. I was bouncing on the ball, I was like walking around my room, and at this point that's when my boyfriend and his mum turned up with all my stuff. I was all sort of sat in the front bit of the labour room, the labour ward, eating a McDonald's. I don't think normally this is allowed, but because the ward was so quiet, I think they just let it slide. And then shift change had just happened then, I think, and I really wanted to go for a walk so I could try and like get things moving. And then I went to ask the midwife who had just come on shift, who was my midwife, if I could go for a walk, and she said, I just want to check your baby's heart rate first before you go for a walk, as I'm new on shift, and I just want to check that everything's okay. She checked. I was sat on the ball while she put the monitor on my belly, and unfortunately baby's heart rate was a little fast, so I then had to be hooked up onto the monitor again, and I couldn't go for a walk. So I was laid in the bed, hooked up onto the monitor. I think they put another antibiotic drip on me again. I had quite a few of those, but I can't remember when it happened. I think I must have had 3 altogether of them drip. Yeah, I was on the monitor for quite a long time. It was now getting quite late, and my my boyfriend and my mum thought it would be best if they went home, as I wasn't being put on the hormone drip that night. So I was going to be put on the hormone drip now in the morning. That's what they'd decided. And it didn't really seem like much was happening. I wasn't still getting any pains. I still felt fairly normal. So my boyfriend and my mum went home because they were my 2 birthing partners. And my mother-in-law stayed with me, which we checked with the midwife, and they said that that was fine. So they went home about 10ish. And I was laid in the bed. I didn't get took off the monitor until, or the drip. I think I got took off the drip first about 11ish maybe, and then off the monitor about 12, because the baby's heart rate was going up and down and up and down. 1 minute it was high, the next minute it was low. 1 minute it was high, the next minute it was low. And I remember at one point the consultant came in to me and said, if your baby's heart rate stays high, we're going to have to do a C-section. So obviously that scared me. But luckily the heart rate did come down, and I was able to come off the monitor and try and get some sleep. I did not get to sleep, not very well. I laid down and shut my eyes. I had a little rest, but I didn't sleep, not really. Because I did start getting a little bit of it when I woke up at this point. I had just very mild period pains in my back. So I told the midwife, and she gave me some paracetamol. I then went to the toilet, and I had more of like a bloody show. I wiped again, and it was all just, it was brown and bloody, and I showed the midwife, and she said that's fine. I just went back to the bed and laid down on the bed. My mum ended up coming back in because she was awake, and then my mother-in-law went back home. Then my boyfriend and my mother-in-law came back, and they brought us a McDonald's breakfast. I was eating my breakfast, and they came in and said, we're gonna put you on the hormone drip soon. And I was doing everything I could to avoid this, to be honest. And they said, once you've had your breakfast, we'll put you on the hormone drip. So I was just taking my time with my breakfast. They said because there's still quite a lot of water around baby's head, the hormone drip wouldn't work as well with the water being around baby's head, obviously, because he needs to press on my cervix to dilate me. So the consultant came and tried to break my waters, which that was horrendous, to be honest. I hated that. That was like one of the worst bits to me. My boyfriend was sat at the side of me, and I was holding his hand, and I had the gas and air in this hand. I had my boyfriend at that side, and I was squeezing his hand, and I had the gas and air at that side, and the doctor was examining me, and that's when they said I was 1.5 centimetre, 1.5 to 2 centimetres, and he tried to break my waters, and I could feel the hook inside. It wasn't, inside me. It wasn't nice at all. And my boyfriend said I hit his hand quite a lot with squeezing it, and apparently I also tried to pull away from the doctor. He failed to break my waters, unfortunately. Then I started eating snacks out of our snack bag, and I remember again the shift change had happened, and I had a new midwife, and she came in and said, and again all the midwives absolutely lovely, I could not fault any of them, but she came in and she said, you shouldn't be eating now in case you need a C-section, because a lot of women that end up on the hormone drip also end up having a C-section. I could still drink but couldn't eat. I also forget to say I had these tablets throughout the night to stop me from getting any sort of acid, just in case I had a C-section. Yeah, so they came in and then they put me on the hormone drip, and I really, really wanted the epidural ASAP, because I mean, I did start getting contractions, and they started off, I can't even describe how they felt. They didn't feel particularly painful at this point. They started off a bit small, and then I had a few big ones, and a few of them I couldn't feel, so it was a bit weird. But some of them I could feel, and then obviously they was getting a little worse. I was on the monitor again because they've got to monitor baby's heart rate and make sure that the baby isn't reacting badly to the drip. Again, baby's heart rate was up and down constantly. It did sort of settle, which was good, but I was drinking a lot of Lucozade, and they told me to stop drinking that when my baby's heart rate was high. Then the anaesthetist, or whatever, however you say it, came to see me to talk to me about the epidural. That took about half an hour for them to put that in, but again, that was perfectly fine. That didn't bother me at all. He did say sharp scratch, and you sort of have to lean over, and that was all fine. But I also should mention, they did the monitor for the baby's heart rate kept coming off my belly, and it wouldn't stay in one place. So while I was having the epidural, a student midwife was sat in front of me, and she was holding the monitor on my belly while I was like this. So yeah, they put the epidural in. The epidural was fine. The midwife was holding the monitor on my belly. He said sharp scratch, and I did feel the needle go in, which was fine, but it made me jump, so I sort of went like that, and they were like, stay still, and I sort of scared myself, obviously, because I know how dangerous it is if you don't stay still during them putting an epidural in. So yeah, so I had the epidural. Hello. But anyway, I got the hormone drip put on, I got the epidural in, and because the monitor kept like moving off my belly, and they couldn't monitor baby's heart rate properly, and it was up and down, they then came in and asked me if I would be okay with a clip being put on my baby's head to monitor his heart rate. And obviously, to me, I'm like, a clip on my baby's head? That's like, you've got to go all that way again? Like, really? How the hell are you going to get that on me again, in me again? And I just thought it was just going to be the same as the time before. But obviously, at this point, I've got the epidural, and they also said that because before my cervix was quite far back and still quite thick, that's why it hurt a bit, or was very uncomfortable. But now, because I'd been on the hormone drip a while, my cervix would be more forward and thinned out, and to be fair, I couldn't feel it. I felt it, but it was very numb. It sort of felt like someone just poking me. So yeah, that was all down to the epidural. It was just sort of like, I've never heard of this before though. It was like a little bit of string hanging out of me, and they could monitor baby's heart rate better that way. And I think it started to seem like it was more stable. But they then examined me again a few hours later, and I was only 3 centimetres dilated, and I'd now been on the hormone drip for almost 12 hours, and I was only 3 centimetres dilated. So they then started mentioning maybe having a C-section, which I was a bit mortified about. I really didn't want a C-section, but I was also so scared of this hormone drip and going any further, because they said, as I was only 3 centimetres dilated, the contractions are going to have to get worse, and I was having like contractions fairly bad at this point. Even though I had the epidural, I could still feel the contractions. When the epidural wore off, which it seemed to wear off fairly fast. The epidural was wearing off every hour, so they had to keep topping it up, but it needed 2 midwives to sign it off. So my midwife and a second midwife to sign it off. So I had to wait, and so I learned that as soon as I felt that the epidural was wearing off, I then needed to ask for a top up, and I felt like I was asking all the time, and it was so weird because when I just had the epidural and the top up, I couldn't really feel the contractions that much. I could just feel my belly getting tight, and then as they started to wear off, I could only feel the contractions on one side. It was so weird. It was this side, and they would literally start from like the bottom of my belly and work their way up. And yeah, they were painful when the epidural was wearing off. I was beginning to feel a lot of pressure down in my lady parts. So to me that sounded quite good, because I felt like that must be baby pressing on my cervix. And they also said because of the clip that was on baby's head, that would mean that would just naturally break the rest of my waters anyway, which it did. So then I could feel pressure on my cervix, and I thought, this is me dilating, it must be. So I could feel loads of pressure down there, which weren't too bad. It was more the contractions coming up one side that wasn't nice at all, because I had to wait for the top up sometimes. That wasn't the nicest either. So I was saying to the midwife, if these contractions have got to get a lot worse, you're saying, I'm not sure if I can do it. So when they mentioned a C-section, I was sort of like, I don't really want a C-section, but I think I'd rather have a C-section than these contractions get a lot worse, because I couldn't really handle them at that point. I would say and I do think because I was laid on my back in this bed, I couldn't move because I was hooked up to this drip. I had this thing dangling out of me, that was also connected to the machine. So I couldn't get up and move about. And I do think if I could get up and get into different positions, and maybe like if I was in a pool or something, they wouldn't have been so bad. But obviously you can't get in a pool when you're being induced like that. You can't get in a pool when you've got the monitor on or a clip to your baby's head. I do think if I could like get in a different position or something, I'd have felt a lot better. I think, yeah, definitely. I wouldn't like to do that again. I won't lie. Hey. And they said they'd give me 2 hours to see if I dilated anymore, and if I'd not, then they would really recommend a C-section. So these 2 hours started passing, and I was talking to my mum and my boyfriend, and I was like, I don't know if a C-section is going to be best to be, and they agreed and said, I think you might be right. And baby's heart rate kept going quite high as well, and the consultants and the midwives were getting concerned. I was getting really tired. I'd not slept all night, and obviously it was then the following night. They was getting quite concerned, and they said if 2 hours passes and you haven't dilated anymore, a C-section is going to be best, because baby's getting distressed, you're getting distressed, which I was. And the 2 hours had not even passed, and I said to the doctors and the midwives, yeah, just take me for the C-section, I've had enough. A doctor came to see me to talk to me about like the risks and everything of a C-section. I remember I was not even on this planet. I was like, I'd been on gas and air all day, and I couldn't even drink any water or juice because I was having a C-section. And this consultant came in to talk to me about the risks, and I was laid in bed just staring at him, not even on this planet. I was so fed up, I was tired, I just wanted him to get on with it and do it. And this consultant was talking to me, I could barely understand him, and he was telling me I could die, but you'll be fine, he says, or you might need a hysterectomy, but you'll be fine. And I was literally just laid there looking at him like, just get on with it, just do it. Like, obviously I knew the risks, I'm not daft, but what are the odds of you actually like dying or having to see a hysterectomy? Like, the consultants do it all the time. I knew that the risks were low, so I just wanted them to get on with it, obviously. I was just fed up and I wanted my baby now. So they catheterised me, they took the clip off the head, but I still had the epidural in, and they topped up the epidural while I was waiting for the C-section, while I was waiting to go down for the C-section. They put my stockings on, they prepped me and everything, and I was literally just sat in my room waiting. It didn't take long. I was literally maybe down within half an hour. They then started wheeling me down, and I was getting really upset at this point. I was crying. I think it was just the emotions and the shock of everything. Like, I literally went in for a scan, and I ended up next day having an emergency C-section. So yeah, I think it was just a shock, and my emotions were very high, and I was tired. It wasn't as bad as what I thought it was at the time, but obviously it still wasn't the birth I wanted, and it's not the best way to give birth. But things happen, and I'm absolutely fine, and the C-section weren't bad at all. They topped up my epidural. They used the medication for the C-section but put it in my epidural, and I literally couldn't feel anything from like here down, and yeah, I couldn't lift my legs, nothing. The C-section was absolutely fine. I felt nothing. My boyfriend was sat there side of me talking to me, and within 10 minutes the baby was out. We heard him cry. I remember they said to me before they pulled him out, they said we're going to feel some pressure now, just as we're pulling the baby out. And yeah, I felt pressure. It literally just felt like someone was sat on me. It wasn't painful though at all. Pulled the baby out, we heard him cry straight away. Me and my boyfriend looked at each other and cried. They wheeled the baby round, or Alfie, round on the little trolley. They put a nappy on him. My boyfriend got to cut the cord. And yeah, they put him right next to my face. Obviously I couldn't have him on my chest, but they put him right next to my face. The only thing is, I didn't realise they took him out and my boyfriend into the recovery room while they stitched me up. And I was just laid there, which felt like forever. While I was being stitched up, I was just laid there with a hand over my head like that. And I just wanted to go to my baby, and my boyfriend wheeled me into the recovery room to see my baby, and they put him straight onto my skin, and started trying to breastfeed. And then I started feeling the medication wearing off. Again, it was on this side. I don't know what it was about this side of me, but yeah, it was on this side. I had the injection to like get the placenta out. Yeah, I don't really say much about the C-section because it was a breeze. I was just scared. I was just scared of it, obviously. Like you're always going to be scared. I can't say anything bad about that. It was just the shock, I think, and my emotions. Yeah, it wasn't the birth I was expecting or wanted. So, but yeah, even though it wasn't what I wanted or expected, it's still got my little boy, and I wouldn't change him for the world. And I would do that all over again to get another one. I would. It wouldn't be on the top of my list to do that again. I'd rather have a natural birth, or a water birth would be lovely. I would do that again. I'm not gonna lie, straight after it happened I was thinking, am I really gonna have any more kids, because I don't know if I can do this again. But now 14 weeks on, and I want more children at some point. Not anytime soon. No, not anytime soon, but I would definitely want another baby, so I will be going through it all again one day. But yeah, anyway, I hope you enjoyed this birth story, and obviously everybody's different. This is just my story, just my perspective on everything. I hope I haven't scared you too much, because I didn't like it particularly. I just really found these videos helpful when I was pregnant. Hello, gorgeous. Yeah, I just really found these videos helpful when I was pregnant, so I hope you did enjoy it. And I will be hopefully filming some more videos soon. Bye!